My favorite lenses among 10,000 couples portraits. So here is what I did. I wanted to see which of these lenses were my favorites overall when it comes to couples portraiture for weddings. So I took specifically weddings, couples portraits, and I took a sample set of 10,000 images and I looked at what percentages were made up of each lens. Now the top three were my 35mm, this guy, the 35, this is the Canon 35 1.4, and then I also have in number 2 is the 50mm 1.2, and number 3 was actually surprisingly my 24 1.4. Now once again, those of you that know me and know my body of work and education know that we have kind of gone back and forth. I've shot a lot of Sigma, I love their Art Series lenses, and I'm kind of back on Canon right now, and the main reason is because I notice over time I get better autofocus consistency out of my Canon lenses. I love the Sigma Art glass and the quality of it and the price point, everything's amazing there, but these make my life a little bit easier, and so that's why I'm kind of back to Canon right now, because it keeps my image count a little bit lower, actually quite a bit lower, and that keeps post-production a bit quicker and so forth. But still, Sigma has great glass and also bodies like the Canon 5D Mark IV. This has dual pixel live view autofocusing, which helps to alleviate much of that autofocus issue that I was experiencing with the Arts in the first place. Sigma also has good customer service. So by all means, do what fits your budget and what works for you. Just know that Sigma glass is great. Know that I'm shooting Canon because it makes my life easier, and that's why I don't want to get into this whole debate thing, you know what I mean? So among these three focal lengths, you'll look at this 35, 50, and 24. Well, there's 20%, 25%, and 23%. This means that basically 75% of the images that I capture on a couple's portrait session come from those three simple focal lengths. Among the remaining 25%, it's split between the 85, so this is our 85, we call this kind of like a true portrait lens, our 7200, which gives us great true portrait focal lengths as well as heavy compression, and a 90mm tilt shift for special effect type stuff. But you'll notice that the 85, I'm only shooting about 10% of my images on that. Although it has a very unique look and effect to it, especially when shooting wide open, I'm not shooting that much on it. Same thing with the 7200, I busted out for special purposes, like when I need to bring the background forward and really zoom in and compress the backgrounds. It's fantastic for that, but otherwise it's staying in my bag. And my tilt shift, well, I use that again for very specialized kind of purposes. I love the look and the effect. But if you said pick three, it would be the 35, the 50, and the 24. Now let's talk about kind of the definitions real quick. So I defined these as a 35mm lens. This guy right here, you'd use this for journalistic moments, as well as exaggerated environmental portraits. So let's kind of take a glance at that kind of stuff. So this is a 35mm portrait. We're going to walk through how this image was created later on, so don't worry about that. But it's a great wide shot that features the couple in this environment. Okay, again, 35mm used close up during an engagement session gives it that kind of journalistic vibe. We can see a lot of the scene. It looks fantastic. We just want to be careful to not frame our subjects towards the edge of the lens because it does have quite a bit of distortion. That's where the kind of exaggeration can come into play, because when you're shooting up close, so long as you place your subject towards the center like this image, it does a nice job of exaggerating lines. Those could be lines of a veil around the edges. It could be legs. Like let's say you shoot this as a portrait aspect ratio, right? You shoot this way, and your model, you place the legs as they kind of extend towards the bottom of the frame, it'll actually make legs look longer. And that's what we mean by exaggerated portraits. So it's fantastic for that. Now the 50mm, so this guy. So this guy is fantastic for portraits, environmental portraits. It's kind of that all-around lens that you can get really great effects on. So this is shot just natural light. I think we're using a reflector just as a white reflector bounce, but super simple. And you can use it kind of closer up. You can use it a little bit wider. Don't go too close on it. So don't go to headshot length because it will still have some distortion there. And that's why we don't call this a true portrait lens, but it is a portrait lens. Okay, so you can use it for portraits. The 24. So this guy that's on the lens currently, we call this our environmental portrait lens. Basically, we're shooting those wide environmental landscape type shots. Shots like this, we're gonna again talk about the lighting and how it's set up, but it does a great job of exaggerating the scene and just making it look epic and dramatic, especially when you have a veil drop thrown into it. So The 24 is fantastic for that. It's also great for exaggerated portraits. So basically this kind of a portrait where you frame the subject towards the center of the image and allow the environment to sort of wrap around them. It has a really beautiful look, and it's unlike most other lenses. Shooting wide open on a 24 prime creates a really unique exaggerated portrait look that really features the environment around the couple. The 85. So again, our 85 is great for compression. It's also a true portrait lens. So you can stand back and get this image on the left where you have great compression, background fall off that looks incredible because you can go up to 1.2 or 1.4 on say the Sigma 85. And then you can step right in close and shoot a close-up portrait with the exact same lens because you're not going to get any distortion, any other kind of lens effects that are going to distort the faces. It's a true portrait lens. So very versatile. The 85 again used for a true portrait up close, and you can see how that background just smushes into that beautiful bokeh. Looks fantastic. 7200, this is where we're talking about environmental compression type shots, right? So in this scene, the ocean is actually very, very far behind the couple. We're stepping back and zooming in to 200 millimeters to make it look as though the ocean is right behind them. In reality, it is not. So it's fantastic for those kinds of compressed images. Also, the 7200 is great for candid journalistic images, and you'll notice that in this shot, we're again zoomed to like 150-ish millimeters in the focal length. You'll see that they're actually probably like 200 meters in front of this pergola, but it looks like the pergola, or the whatever it's called, pagoda, pergola, same thing. Rotunda, that's what it is. It's a rotunda. The rotunda looks like it's directly behind them, and that's that compression taking effect. As we zoom in, the backgrounds are looking as if they are closer to the subjects. Okay, so really nice effects. And I know what causes compression, guys. Please, please. Let's just all understand that focal length's exaggerated. So the tighter the zoom, the more it exaggerates compression. I know there's no real difference. You can take a picture and zoom in and post. It looks the same. Okay, just calm down. Calm down. Okay, 9mm tilt shift. So exaggerated portraits. The shot on the left, taken in this hallway, it really does a great job of exaggerating these lines and kind of letting everything fall in and out of focus. Same thing in the middle shot, letting the dress fall out of focus. Same thing on the right shot, letting the dress, the suit, everything above and below the eye lines fall out of focus. It's fantastic for that. It can create that miniature look, or it can also just bring your attention into the focal plane. And I love the tilt shift for that. It has that very soft and kind of just beautiful ethereal kind of feel that works so well for wedding portraits. So that's it for our 6 favorite lenses, or the 6 most used lenses when it comes to couples portraiture. Again, in my top 3, if I'm going out to do an engagement session, I'm just going to take my 24, my 35, my 50, and maybe a specialty lens, like maybe either my 85 or the tilt shift, depending on what I feel like the clients want. But I'm gonna go a little bit minimalistic. On weddings, we usually have a little bit more of our gear, but that gives you an idea of what gear we're using the most. So even on the wedding day, if you say you need to go to the beach, leave all the other gear somewhere safe and don't carry every single thing out there. Try and be a little bit minimalistic so you can move quicker and think more creatively. That's it. Let's go ahead and move on to the next video.